For those of y'all that are joining, welcome to another IT Leadership Lab live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about interviewing tech talent, what questions you need to ask, how you should get involved with the recruitment team and HR and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it off real quick to Krista. Krista, if you want to introduce yourself, tell us how long you've been doing your job and then what you do at Ninja.
All right. So, hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Krista. Last name is Cease, in case you want to look me up. And I have been at Ninja for almost 4 years. Joined at a time when Ninja had no internal recruitment team in order to build an internal recruitment team here for NinjaOne. I have been in the recruitment profession since 2011. Have worked for multiple different types of SaaS software companies or hardware companies, and now here at NinjaOne. So I'm excited to share some information with you guys today.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit more about your role at Ninja and what you do?
Sure. So I'm the lead senior technical talent acquisition partner. It's a big,
That's a mouthful
big,
for sure.
big, long title. I essentially technically manage the technical recruitment function here at NinjaOne. We have a team of 5, including myself as of today, and we would do all of the engineering recruitment for the organization. So anything that's technical or engineering, we recruit for NinjaOne.
Okay, awesome. So let me go ahead and mute my notifications real quick. All right. So I wanted to jump in and start off with a question about the actual recruitment process. So how early should hiring managers be involved in that recruitment process? And then what should their role be in that as well?
Sure. That's a lot to unpack. So
Yes,
we'll
yes.
we'll do a little and then ask me some more questions as we kind of
Okay,
go through.
perfect.
But the way a a solid recruitment team functions is as a partner to the hiring manager, right? Ultimately, the hiring is the responsibility of the recruitment partner that you're working with and you as the manager. So that engagement, to kind of answer your question easily, that engagement up front is really important.
Mhm.
And there are very specific things and very specific roles that you can, as a manager, participate in that
Mhm.
is super helpful to the interview process. A recruiter should always ask you, or you should ask a recruiter for what we call at Ninja a kickoff. And kicking off the recruitment process is going through like all the things that a recruiter needs to know and understand in the recruitment process. Like
Mhm.
think about your partner, or your recruiter. Think about them as like all of the hats that they wear, right? Like they're wearing a researcher hat, they're wearing a detective hat, they're
Mhm.
wearing a counselor hat, they're wearing a learning hat. There are all these things to different people as they go through the recruitment process. And at the kickoff stage, like they're that researcher. They're there to dig out from the hiring manager what it is that's important to them, what it is that the job description means, right? Like not just like, okay, I know the words, I check the box. Like, what does it really mean when you say want someone who knows how to work in an agile software development lifecycle
Mhm.
environment, right? What does that really mean to you? What am I going to see on a resume, right? So really being able to dig in with your partner and answer the questions that they have and need. The
Mhm.
questions are going to be logistical. as well. So they're going to be about the role. They're going to be about your team. They're going to be like, okay, here's the job description, but what are the things that it doesn't say? What are the skills gaps that you're looking to fill in, right? You may have a really well-rounded team, but you have a gap in a certain skill set, right? So what is
Mhm.
that we're looking for? Which may or may not be called out on the job description, right?
Sure.
So it's really that deep dive. It's who's going to participate in the interview process.
Mhm.
Um, it's 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 what is their role when they are participating in the interview process,
Mhm.
and then all the way down to, what does the process look like to be effective, and so
Mhm.
we can measure talent appropriately, as
Mhm.
well as you know how are we going to make a final decision.
Sure. Yeah.
So simply put, the more partnership you have with your recruiting partner, the more effective and the faster your recruitment is going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so is there kind of a bullet point list of maybe information that hiring managers should provide um, to the hiring team to create an effective job description and candidate profile?
When like bullet point list for a job description and candidate profile.
So basically, just if you're going to go into the kickoff meeting,
Mhm.
and the hiring managers should have some information about the kind of candidate they're looking for, what are kind of some of those things that they should bring to that meeting?
Bring to the table. Well, for sure, bring a job description. And it's really helpful for a manager to, like, if they've done some research around
Mhm.
the role. We all, as hiring managers, know what the role looks like inside of our organization, but how does it present externally? And how
Mhm.
do other companies who are looking for the same type of profile that you're looking for, how do they present those? So, like, a
Mhm.
really good hiring manager, a good hiring partner, and we just had one do this for us the other day, comes to the table with a completed job description for review. Um, they also brought some competitors' job descriptions,
Okay.
as well.
Yeah.
So there was 2 or 3 competitors' job descriptions that they brought, and they brought 2 or 3 profiles from LinkedIn that fit the bill, right?
Mhm.
So we call that what great looks like. And it's really important if you know what great looks like, being able to communicate that to your recruiting partner
Mhm.
is really helpful early on. Um,
Okay.
Beyond that, we always ask for a couple of technical questions
Mhm.
for us to be able to have the conversation with a candidate. I call these screen out or screen in questions. So
Mhm.
these are things like, okay, here's my checklist of the things that I'm looking for. Don't show me a resume, don't bring me a profile that doesn't have these things, like this bucket. So I call those the must-haves.
Mhm.
And then we will talk a little bit in a kickoff meeting about soft skills. So,
Okay.
what's important in soft skills and what's important for your team dynamic is also really good to bring with you. And then the screen out, screen in questions. Those are questions that a recruiter can ask that are technical. Technical people like to talk about tech, right?
Mhm.
They get a little uncomfortable talking about themselves. So if we have an opportunity to get them talking about their work, their career,
Mhm.
the contributions that they've made, and then even to like dig in technically on those screen out, screen in questions really helps us get through those initial conversations and get to quality talent faster. Um,
Mhm.
so those questions are really important. We also need the answers to those questions. We won't know the answers, right? So we
Sure.
need to
Yeah.
know what we're looking for when you come to the table when the candidates are talking to us and they're coming to the table. The other thing that's really important to bring is know who is going to participate on your interview panel and what their function is going to be. Like, are they specifically going to cover a specific like skill? such as system design, right? You may have one interview that's going to be system design. You may have one that's going to be coding. You may have one that's going to be like debugging and more like team fit, right? But know who is going to participate in your panel and what their function is going to be.
Mhm.
And your partner will help you frame up like what feels like the right process. The
Mhm.
only thing I didn't include in this checklist, because it's not always something that you have up front, but if there is any type of technical, like take home or showcase, we call it a showcase. The term assessment makes a candidate feel like they're on display and being totally judged, where I like to frame it more around a showcase, like this is your chance to show off what you can do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like if there's something that you want the candidate to do as a take home, bring that to the table too, so you and your partner can discuss.
Mhm. Do you usually provide some options for take home, uh, like take home assessments or, um, I guess what's the best way for a hiring manager to find something like that that they could provide
Sure.
during the interview
I
process?
mean, the reality is I've worked at all different companies from ARM to SaaS software companies, and the best thing that works for like a technical showcase or a take home is something that you've built yourself. So it's really challenging, especially now in the world of AI. It's really challenging to go get something that's already out there. There are
Mhm.
tools that a hiring manager can access. We use CoderPad just in a small amount in order to do some live coding exercises,
Mhm.
but we still develop those live coding exercises. We're not pulling something from
Gotcha.
the web.
Mhm.
It's easily answered, and sometimes even by a bot. So you have to, we're up against the bots these days,
Oh,
and
man.
it is
Yeah.
challenging.
Yeah. How do you even approach, like, situations like that where, I guess AI is a huge thing in recruitment that how do you know how to parse what is,
Real and what's not.
real and what is AI?
Yeah. Um, well, AI is a part of our world, right?
Mhm.
Real candidates are using AI to apply to jobs.
Mhm.
And real people who are fishing are also using AI to apply to
Mm.
jobs.
Mhm.
And so the amount of applications has increased significantly just in the
Yeah.
last year. And the amount of viable applications you get to a posted job has decreased significantly.
Mhm.
So really being able to suss that out, is really helpful to work with a good partner.
Yeah.
Um, the there's like some key things that we've started to notice and pick up on. They typically have the same formatted resume as like 3 or 4 other people
Yeah.
who've applied to your job in the last couple of days.
Yeah. Yeah.
The content is different, but the formatting is the same. The names are different. Sometimes the names are different, but the jobs are the same. That's really
Interesting.
interesting.
Huh.
The names are all across the board, but I do think that lately I've noticed that they have the ability to research a company dynamics, and they're using names that match like the company dynamic inside.
Wow.
Yeah, so like if you have, a highly diverse population, you may be getting really diverse applications with lots of
Yeah.
different names. Or if you have a team that's all in Texas, you may be getting, a more Texas profile.
Mhm.
The easiest thing for us that we've noticed lately is when you talk to a candidate about where they're located. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. The ones that aren't real, that are maybe even in a call center in another country taking this call, they don't know. They've put
That's
s Yeah.
wow.
They've put some sort of obscure, location on their
Uh-huh.
resume, thinking you won't know, and, and then when you ask them about it, they can't even tell you. Like, oh, like I often ask, what's the largest city that you're near?
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that's wild. I had no idea that this was like something that
it's a thing.
you have to
Yeah.
deal with now. I mean, it's been a few years since I've had to do the interview process, but I mean, I now I'm wondering what I've been up against this whole time. But
That it's a lot. It's a lot. I feel
yeah,
really bad for the real candidates, right?
yeah, I can
Really
imagine
bad.
it's a lot. It's a lot to parse through because you have
Yeah.
people using AI to evaluate candidates too, and it's like, well, they're probably up
Mhm.
again. They're probably evaluating each other, and the AI is talking to each other, and
Well,
yeah, yeah, I can.
they're
It's
they're
traumatic.
also parsing in the job description
Mm,
and
mhm,
like creating a resume that's a slam dunk.
yeah.
Like a slam dunk. It hits all the hot buttons. It says all the things you want it to say, and then you
Ugh,
call them, and they're like in a call center somewhere.
ugh. And then you're like, well, that's a lot of time that I just spent on something that's not real when I could have been spending time on real
Yeah,
candidates. So,
yeah.
yeah,
So you're
I can imagine that's
you're
frustrating.
seeing the industry move back to homemade technical assessments. You're seeing
Mm-hmm,
the industry move back to sourcing, direct sourcing, LinkedIn, using, your Indeed, LinkedIn, your tools that represent folks that have to build their own profiles.
hmm
Um, and the more built out those profiles are, I do believe that AI hasn't like infiltrated those
hmm
profiles as much
yeah.
as we have in applications.
hmm Okay, well, good to know. Um, Now that we've kind of covered a little bit about setting up the actual, interviews and getting candidates, I wanted to talk a little bit about the actual interview process itself.
Mhm.
Um, so let's say a hiring manager is in an interview with a candidate. What are some things that they could flag as um, kind of things that they could flag to help assess their ability to troubleshoot or solve complex technical problems? So, what can an IT manager see from a good candidate?
Sure. A good candidate will be able to have a conversation about their work. So it's
Hmm
really important to engage a candidate in a discussion about the work that they've done. Um, I I like to use open-ended questions that gives the candidate an opportunity to talk about like what did they contribute?
hmm
Like what did they work on? What did they contribute? Because it's always a team, right?
hmm
Um, what was the business impact of the work that they did, and lessons learned, right?
hmm
If you can get someone to talk about a piece of work that they've done from beginning to end, you're really going to gather a ton of information. That
hmm
lessons learned piece, that's what's really helpful when you're talking about evaluating a candidate and how they perceive and look at their work, right?
hmm
So that's somebody who reflects, who's providing quality, who knows how to iterate in the next step, right? And you may be looking for a software developer or someone who you need them to iterate, right? But make make a list of the things that you're looking for, right? You've done this with your recruiting partner in the kickoff, the things
hmm
that are must-haves, and then your partner can help you build questions that are open-ended around getting to the answers of the things that you're looking for, right?
hmm
So it's matching back. We call it competencies here at NinjaOne. It's matching back what competencies you need in a candidate and providing a question that's going to allow you to discover the
hmm
answer,
hmm
if that makes
Yeah.
any sense.
Yeah.
Yes, no questions are really hard for candidates. You're not eliciting a discussion. You aren't able to understand like their thought process. Even in the technical showcases, we ask the candidates, like we literally when we send a showcase to a candidate, we don't say there's right or wrong, right? It's
Mhm.
not it's not an assessment of do this right or do this wrong. It's we want to see how you approach it so we can understand your thought process, how you approach problem solving, and how that matches up to what we're looking for in the organization.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And then aside from technical ability, how do you assess their ability to work with a team, or their communication abilities? Is it simply just asking them about those projects from start to finish, or are there additional questions you usually ask?
I it just depends. Sometimes I will just ask specifically,
Mhm,
say we're interviewing for a software engineering manager. How have you collaborated in the past with a product manager,
mhm,
right? Tell me how y'all work together, right?
mhm,
Um, how do you approach your day? How do you organize your day? Is an interesting question to ask a candidate. I
mhm.
asked a candidate yesterday, when do you do your best work? Right?
Yeah.
Because if you have the candidate that does their best work overnight when no one's bothering them versus the candidate that really likes to be in the Zoom meeting all day, every day, just like, what about this? What about this? Right? And you need both. Like you need diversity on your team. It's just
Yeah.
what do you need at the moment for that hire that's most important.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I completely get that. Um, And then what kind of red flags do you usually look for when conducting interviews? Things that stand out that you're like, "Oh, I don't know about that."
One of the things that a talent acquisition partner does for in their initial conversation
Mhm,
is I like to understand from a candidate what is the reason why they're looking for something new.
mhm,
I call that criteria. I literally will ask a candidate, what is the top 5 criteria that you're looking for, right? You
mhm,
think you think we spend all this time doing the kickoff and framing it all out for what we need as an
mhm,
organization, but the key is to match it to what the candidate wants as well, right? That's what makes a good hire.
mhm,
So asking a candidate about what they're looking for really is telling. Like the very prepared candidate or the one who has something very specific that they're looking for, like they have their list ready to go
mhm,
and they can just rattle it off, right?
mhm,
And then I like to dig. A lot of candidates will tell you I'm looking for a highly collaborative team environment. And I ask, what does that mean to you? Right?
sure, yeah,
Like, what describe that for me? Have you and even have you had that in the past?
mhm,
Or are you seeking something that you don't really know what it is? Right?
yeah,
It's super helpful to understand those things as well.
mhm,
So really getting to the meat of what's important to the candidate is also super critical. Whether it's your talent acquisition partner doing that or you as a hiring manager understanding that,
mhm,
it's really helpful. The biggest red flag, back to your red flag question, is when a candidate doesn't want to talk about that. Um,
mm, mhm,
it's not going to probably be a good match for you unless you're looking for someone to do entirely solo work,
yeah,
um, that can't have enough introspection to understand what they're looking for. Now,
mhm,
back to the counselor profile or the counselor hat that you wear as a recruiter.
yeah,
A lot of times, getting someone to talk about themselves in that way, they need permission. So don't just consider it a red flag unless you've actually given the candidate permission to have that discussion.
mhm,
The reactions to this type of question, is anything from "I'm going to completely hang up on you," and they do,
wow,
um, to "I'm uncomfortable sharing
mhm,
that with you, and I'd like to move on,"
mhm,
and all the way to like I know exactly what I'm looking for. I know that my bullseye on the target is XYZ, and I'm out there interviewing you as much as you're interviewing me. Right?
yeah, yeah,
And somewhere in between there is what you as an organization are palatable to, right?
yeah,
So it
mhm,
gives you a barometer as to what you're looking for. Not necessarily like a complete red flag, but a barometer.
Mhm.
The other thing is when you ask a candidate to talk about their work, if they can't go deep, if they can't tell you what it is they worked on,
Yeah, yeah.
why they worked on it, what was the outcome, the conclusion, and
Mhm,
even the lessons learned. So we're back to that one single question. Tell me about a technical achievement that you're really proud of in your career.
mhm,
And you ask the multiple data points beyond that, right? What was the problem you were solving? How long did it take you to solve it? What did the
mhm,
team dynamics look like? What was your part on the team? What was the outcome? Did you get to the solve? What was the business impact? And then what were the lessons learned? Like
mhm,
that one simple question through like the lens of a technical achievement can get you all of the red flags that you're looking for.
mhm,
Not being able to go deep, not being able to talk about the team, having no understanding of why you were doing the work that you were doing.
mhm,
um, I mean, those are things that don't necessarily make a quality hire.
mhm. All right. Nate had a question. How do you assess for cultural fit? What kind of questions are asked?
Um, Part of that's a part of the kickoff, like
Mhm,
understanding what the hiring manager is looking for.
mhm,
And then I go back to what is the candidate looking for in their criteria,
mhm,
because if what the candidate is looking for in their criteria matches what we're looking for as far as a good fit for our team, then the culture piece usually works itself out,
mhm,
and it comes out in that conversation. Um, I'm trying to think what else we do in regards to cultural fit. You know, problem solving and how they approach problem solving is very unique to each team. It's
mhm.
also very unique to each individual. So making sure that that's a match
Yeah.
also is really important. We have a set of core values at NinjaOne,
Mhm,
and we through the discussions that we have with our candidates, we assess kind of what their strengths are that match to our core values. So that's a really great way to assess a cultural piece, right? Like one of our core values is humility. So a lot of times when I'm doing a write up to a hiring manager about a candidate, I'll be like, this candidate was scored really high on the humility, right?
mhm,
They
mhm,
were completely aware of the things that they knew. They were completely upfront about the things that they didn't know. They were completely open about learning, right?
mhm,
Understanding the learning. So that's a really great way to match cultural, or at least to be able to communicate around a cultural fit, is to use your
mhm.
company's core values.
Yeah. Would you say that it's helpful if the company doesn't have any core values? Because a lot of IT shops are, very small. They've got small companies. Do you think it's helpful to kind of have a set of core values in your IT organization for
Sure.
like candidates you're looking for?
Yeah. Um, Again, a lot of that comes out in the criteria and the discussion around the type of candidate that you're looking for.
Mhm,
Um, and sometimes it's easier for us as a hiring manager to talk about the soft skills versus
mhm,
even the technical, right? Defining the technical can be sometimes a little bit harder. But I know that I want someone who is like service oriented, right?
mhm,
Who's customer focused,
mhm,
who puts the customer first, who who's quick to solve problems, who those are the things that you usually identify that you're looking for in a candidate profile,
mhm,
and through a discussion around you're asking a question around how does the work that you do impact the customer. That could
mhm,
be a very simple question that you ask, and to get the understanding of what that person and how they approach a customer focused role
mhm.
behaves, right?
Yeah.
So it's really about choosing the right questions for the things that are most important to you in your culture.
Mhm,
Um, and if you don't have core values, It doesn't mean you don't, as a team, have values. There's things that you value, right?
Yeah.
So just make sure that you work with your partner and outline those values so we can either help you come up with questions or identify those things in discussions.
Mhm. Yeah. You know, talking about all of the people that are going to be on the panel, things like that. How many rounds of interviews do you usually have for a technical interview process? And what is the interview loop? What does the interview loop look like? And who might be included in that?
Sure. Um, I this is what I would consider a best practice. Nothing is set in stone. We do not practice a like this is how it has to be at NinjaOne type process because no two hires are the same.
Hmm.
Even you can be hiring for the same role, but again, you have different skills gaps. You're filling in different things for your team, so no two hires are the same. Um, the best practice is you would have what we call a TAP interview, which is a talent acquisition partner interview between your recruitment partner and a candidate. So that's your first touch. And what happens in that is we're getting those basics, making sure that they're qualified, verifying that they're a good fit for the role, making sure that they are who they say they are, right?
Hmm.
Making sure that they're viable as far as timing or compensation,
Hmm.
right? All of those things are really important to happen in that first touch or that first interview. And it could be a
Hmm.
hiring manager that does those things as well. Um, but making sure that they don't have an offer in hand, right? A candidate that has an offer in hand that's going to be going through a 6 to 8 week recruitment process is not a viable candidate, right? So
Hmm.
you have to vet for the basics at the beginning. Next up is what we call the competency interview, is where we really have the hiring manager at that point, or the person who's the technical SME. It doesn't have to be the hiring manager, it could be the person who's the technical subject matter expert. It's where they dive deep and determine whether this person is qualified to do the
Hmm.
role, right? So you're verifying that the person is a viable candidate up front. Then you're doing a competency. So you're evaluating the qualifications that this person brings to the table or this group of people that you're talking to.
Hmm.
Um, the next step is when we would do the technical showcase, but you don't have to do that.
Hmm.
And then there would be a final interview that would include like team fit as
Hmm.
well as verifying any additional technical skills and experiences that may need to be vetted out further.
Hmm.
So we kind of like to do a 4 to 5 point process. So first touch, verifying the candidate is viable. Second touch, competency interview. That's how you determine whether they're qualified to do the job or not qualified to do the job. There can be a technical take home if you choose to do so, and then a final round interview, which would be a couple members of your team, either as a panel or individual conversations where they're assessing any additional technical needs as well as team fit. That
Hmm.
final interview is where your top candidates are going to be,
Hmm.
right? And at that point, you're not determining whether they can do the job. You're picking the person who's going to be the right fit for your team.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's super helpful, and as people that for people that don't have internal recruiting departments and stuff, I think that that kind of process is really
Mhm.
a great outline to follow too. Um, and
A one
then,
and a one
oh,
and
sorry.
done. Yeah, sorry, Brittany.
Oh no.
A one and done doesn't necessarily get you all of the things that you need.
Mhm. Yeah.
The idea around a couple point, a 3 to 4 point process is your engineers, right? They trust but verify. You're always trusting as you go
Mhm.
through the recruitment process, but you're verifying. So you have
Mhm.
some of the same points in each one of the touch points in the process to make sure there's some consistency
Mhm.
in the candidate as well.
Yeah.
I saw a red flag would be inconsistency, and
Mhm,
a solid candidate will be consistent about their answers across all of the touches that you have with them.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, I also wanted to ask about, there are a lot of people that are jumping into a more technical job from something completely different. So they might be self-taught, they might have done boot camps, things like that. How do you evaluate their technical skills when they might not have that previous experience? Um, yeah.
I, I, this one is harder, and I don't know how often this happens, but part of an equitable recruitment process is you're evaluating all of the candidates at the same level.
Mhm,
So if you're looking to hire entry or someone who is an up and comer, that
mhm,
has a lot of room to grow, you either want to make sure that you're evaluating them for a role where they can be successful,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, I think a really great example of this is like a new grad.
Mhm,
And a lot of times, a new grad, whether it's from a boot camp or whether it's from, a computer science or an IT program, they don't know what they don't know. So
yeah.
you do evaluate more for potential than you
Mhm,
do for actual competency.
mhm,
So I talk a lot with them about their projects,
mhm,
and I use the very similar, like, tell me about the project, tell me about the achievement, tell me about the team, help me understand what your contribution was, right? And just really get a good feel. It's the same question that you're asking someone who has had a long, illustrious technical career.
mhm.
The answers are different, but they're no less telling in
Sure.
regards to what you're getting from this person. So
Mhm,
you can tell the person who um, is like the overachiever, who has potential to be a good fit for your organization. You can tell the person who is the person who is easily directed, right?
mhm,
That may be a profile that you're looking for in your organization as well, just by how they interacted in their projects.
mhm,
So for me, it's about potential and
mhm.
what they can offer in the future, and that is a much more difficult thing to evaluate on.
Sure.
So it's important to use those open-ended questions, understand what's important to you, and
Mhm,
and to be able to dive deep into a technical discussion.
mhm. Yeah. All right. I think that kind of hit all of the main points that I wanted to ask. But I guess, do you have any kind of last words of wisdom or things that we might not have covered in those questions?
Oh gosh, I felt like we covered a lot,
Yeah, yeah.
and some
I think
some
I
really
did too.
some really good information.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I think it's really, if you're working with a talent acquisition partner, I think it's really key in how you partner, or even maybe you're working with an HR support, right?
Mhm,
Understanding where you can be effective as a manager,
mhm,
and how you can help train the person that you're working with to look for the things that you look for, right? Our job is always to make your time value higher, right? So we want to get you to quality candidates sooner.
mhm,
And the more we understand from you, the more you can teach us,
mhm,
because we're always learners. As somebody on this side of the fence, the better suited we're going to be. So like that partnership, I think just hitting on that again is really important. If you're going at it on your own, think about what it was like the last time that you were on the other side of the fence, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Um, I am constantly training managers who, you know, that write a job description and it says the candidate will have, right? The candidate will have. We write our job descriptions in the tone and the voice of the candidate,
Mhm,
so you will be a part of the team.
mhm,
Here's who you will be working working with. Your expertise will contribute in these ways, right? Think about what it is that makes you feel good as
Mhm.
a candidate, and put yourself on that side when you're having your conversations. Don't forget, it's a two-way evaluation. It's not a one-way.
Yep.
The candidate is there is still a hot market for top talent, and the candidate is evaluating you amongst many others out there
Mhm.
in the world who are looking for good people to join their organization. Um, and make sure that you give them information.
Mhm.
Um, a
Yeah.
lot of times I'll ask a hiring manager how long they want their competency interview to be. And they're like, "Oh, 30 minutes." And I'm like, "All right." I was like, "You are awesome, right? You can get to the point in 30 minutes and figure out if this person can do the job, right?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." I said, "What
Mhm.
about the time the candidate needs in order to know if the job is good for them?"
Mhm.
So, make sure that your calls are at least 45 minutes long. If you only need 30 minutes to assess a person's skill set, which is great,
Mhm.
it's a really good use of time. Don't forget to give the other piece back, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Here's what we can offer you. We call it the value proposition. I know that
Mhm.
feels like a big term, but it's like this is the value that NinjaOne or you and your organization can bring to the candidate. Like you're
Mhm.
filling in a skills gap for them, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think that the person who fits your job 90% is going to be the person who also is going to get bored quickly or be looking for that next step in your career.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have that to provide, hire the 90% person. But if you
Mhm.
don't have that to provide, don't forget that like you're 50-50, the person who can contribute to your organization 50% without having to learn anything new
Mhm.
versus the person who and then still has 50% new things to learn. That person in your org is driven and they're hungry and they will stay in the role that you hired them in longer in order
Mhm.
to learn those things. So don't always just look for the slam dunk or who I would call the bot.
Yeah.
Don't always just look for that, but like find somebody who is going to contribute as well as grow in your
Mhm.
organization. So you have a longer term hire for your team.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining, Krista. I really appreciate it. These are really, really great tips, and I think they're really helpful for IT leaders that are looking to get some more folks on their team and grow and have a solid culture. So, really, really appreciate your time today. I guess to everybody watching as well. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. We'll be talking about technical debt. So, a little bit of a different topic, but also very important for IT leaders that are dealing with a lot of technical debt that's kind of bogging them down. So, we'll be back
I
in
see.
a couple of weeks.
I see Nate. Nate, thank you so much as well. If there's anything additional I can help anybody with, please don't hesitate to hit me up one on one on LinkedIn or even here at NinjaOne email. I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. Let me see if I can get your LinkedIn link real quick.
I snapped it in the tool. I put it in the tool, hoping that people could see it.
All right.
I got it.
I'll also drop it in chat too.
Yeah,
All
perfect.
right. Well,
Thanks, guys.
awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for joining. And we'll catch y'all later. All right. Take care.